You get movements built into it, huh? It's like a little heart beating.
Mediterranean breeze.
We're just enlarging the skull slightly because we've got to find some more space inside here for the works.
I'm trying a new pivot point for that.
Where?
It goes back in again, it's shallow curve.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? And this, we're going to lose this, are we, this obstruction?
Yeah, we'll lose all those.
We've done away with that movement, haven't we, anyway?
Side to side, yeah. Let's go back and down now. The twist.
And also a joint here somewhere, yeah?
Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to see.
Because it looks a bit rigid, doesn't it, otherwise?
The problem is when the neck goes back, you're going to have a problem controlling it. You need to come as far out as possible with your pivot points.
You have to build everything yourselves because there's nothing ready-made for you, unfortunately. They just don't. They don't come ready-made. Most unlike what most film companies seem to think. They appear to think that you can just everything's ready-made for them, and it's just in little drawers, and all you have to do is to take it out of the drawer and get it ready for them. No, you build everything, literally every bit and piece.
You can get a piston that small with a 1/4-inch stroke.
You use books and things. You've got anatomy books. You've got all the references. I've got a vast library downstairs, as you know. We've got books on the anatomy of almost every creature that ever lived. For one film production or another, every production you do, you end up buying even more books. On this one, I had to get an enormous great reference book on anatomy of wolves and dogs. In this production, we're actually skinning the actor, so the first time I suggested, why don't we do it more like that, for example, which is really horrific. But of course, if we did our transformation scenes like this, I think that most of the audience would have left the cinema after the first few seconds of the transformation. They'd never see it to the end, I don't think, because it really is quite something else. When this is all wet and covered in blood and dripping, the skin peels off, truly rise and scream.
This is Gregory Pecker now.
This was just done for a test. But
you did one Gregory Peck for...
Oh yes, for real, for the boys from Brazil, that's right.
Yeah.
The actual idea for this production was based on this sculpture, which, funnily enough, by pure coincidence, was done on Boys from Brazil by me in the hotel room in Lisbon, since there wasn't much to do in the evenings after we'd finished shooting. I used to just sit and model this wax sculpture of this is the actual human anatomy. It's quite accurate too. I just got anatomy books there, and I was just sculpting it away. It's made out of about 20 or 30 different kinds of wax combinations and blends. Some of it's very flexible, and some of it's really, like the bone part, is quite hard. But when I showed this, the production people actually saw this, and they thought that they rather liked that. So I said, well, why don't we use that for the transformation? If we can lose the nose and ears and all these features by taking the skin off, then it makes the whole transformation very much easier. So that's why that was really developed. When you make teeth for the film Quest for Fire, the problem was to make not so much just human teeth, but Neanderthal men's teeth, primitive man's own teeth, which were first of all sculpted up in wax, like that. This is some of the original wax sculpture of the teeth. Then these teeth are actually made separately with all the discolorations in, rather like these human ones I've made here, with all the little discolorations actually built in. And then they're put on a plate like that, so they fit over that's a cast of the actor's own teeth. And then they snap on over, so you end up with that. Primitive man's teeth were rather different to modern teeth. The anatomy was actually slightly different. It really was. I'd like to think we worked together very closely. I mean, John did show me how he wanted to play the part and worked at great length on trying to play for sympathy and all that sort of thing. And the thing was to make it not look like a cheap horror thing. We wanted to try and reproduce something approximating, but not an exact clone of the Elephant Man, right?
Yeah, you could take liberties. In other words, you could create something which was grotesque, but by the end of the film, you would find not too heavily difficult to be able to sympathise with.
We had no time for a start. That was problem number one. Problem number two was that we had to work out a way of, technically, a way of actually doing this, because as far as I know, no makeup had ever had quite such an enormously complicated build-up with such very thick areas, especially on the corner of the neck, where you'd normally make an edge, you couldn't make an edge, and so on and so forth. So technically it was very difficult just for a start. So my problem was to work out how the hell to do it. We had a cast which was a death mask of the original Elephant Man on which to base things. We also had his skeleton, we had photographs also of the original photographs that actually existed. I had this from the London Hospital of what the man actually looked like, and we based it upon that. These were our actual working photographs, incidentally. That was presumably when he was a boy. We're not sure whether that's a photograph or it's a drawing. It's rather hard to tell the difference. And these are among the only photographs that were ever taken. This must have been taken just before he died anyway.
It wasn't in an emporium like this either. When Chris had his studio when we were doing that, was a little tiny sort of basement, really, wasn't it?
That's right, it was a little basement. It was
the old Kent Road.
Known by one of my colleagues as the Grotto. The Grotto.
Oh.
Round a bit now, that's
Yeah, but you want to get in position.
Right, which day?
You won't get much from there.
Put it over the top.
Well, what happens if we don't?
No, put it over the top.
It looks so strange, doesn't it?
Put it over the top.
It must be. I mean, surely that was... What do you think, Steve? Would you say 6? 5:20.
Give it a go for 6, but I can't promise.
The eyes, I mean.
Otherwise,
We're not finishing it. We're just going to put the eyes on. Put those on.
Yeah.
Put the eyes on. Go and run it on. Doing the top.
I'll away with them and I'll come back again.
Okay.
What's the test the pressure? Thank you very much.
You leave it at that, sir. It's going again, hang on. Yeah. Come back to your bottles.
What do you think? So far, so good.
Not bad.
So far, so good, no.
Anyway, do I get
Something's doing.
What's this one trying to move back?
do I get the job or
Oh, that way.
nose?
Now, the only problem is here, we can see right down. Should it go forward, Stuart? Uh-oh. No, that's the nose one that's good. See, we've got to do something about that.
And action.
Got it. Save the red.
Just see what we can do to salvage that.
All right. No, that's gone. I think with all the hassles with the wig, we'll leave the forehead just for the time being and concentrate on his right lower cheek area. How's that?
Is that for me?
Yes, please.
And then you do it all with your acting because it's already off. It's not attached to you anymore. So you've got to somehow kid them. It's really.
Aim lower than higher, then you're sure to get it. It's loose.
Well, I can start with my finger. Here we go.
Okay. If it does come off, plenty of anger. Okay, ready.
And turn over. Insulate.
And action.
Do you ever give you bad dreams, all these weird creatures or...
No, the only bad dreams you get are whether it's going to be ready in time and whether it's not good. But most of the time you're worrying about whether it's, it's this little word by that's the problem. It's the one word that causes all the problems.
By, is it?
Yeah, we want it by.
Yesterday.
Well, whenever it is, it doesn't matter. Whenever it's wanted, it's far too soon, no matter when. If it was 20 years' time, it would still be too soon. Because obviously, if it,
When somebody asks you to do something, they probably have a fair idea what they want. Make sketches or... how does it work?
Depends what it is. Usually you end up doing it three-dimensionally if it's to alter somebody's appearance, you generally alter the actor himself, the cast of the actor. As I say, drawings, you can draw almost anything you want, but it's still got to, it's what you can actually do on somebody's face. It's rather different to what you can draw. You can draw anything. If you want you to look like Elizabeth II, it's simple enough. You just draw it draw a picture of Elizabeth II over your face.
Yeah.
Simple enough. But to come to actually sculpt that on top of a plaster cast of you is impossible. You have to make compromises all the time. You're compromising here because your nose is bigger than hers. Therefore, we've got to make something else to try and create an illusion of your nose being smaller. You have to do something else. You have to add on a bit here and so on. And by the time you're finished, it's far from what you would have set out to do if you were just drawing it. That's the difficulty.
It looks very effective.
Yeah, but she'd like a cup of something to drink, so you can drink that.
Oh, this is going to be a
That's
job,
the
isn't
point
it?
you can get to do.
Seriously. What do I do? Hold this up?
No, drink with it. Oh, okay. That's it. Oh! Ah!
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah.
Have I spelt it? Sorry.
No?
I'll have it with a straw later on.
Mr. Pickup, you played the leading part in the TV series of Einstein. What was it like to work with him?
Well, it's a very funny experience, amongst other things, because he has a great sense of humour, rather black sense of humour, which makes life much more enjoyable than it might be, because particularly in the initial stages, it's quite a frightening experience buried beneath this prosthetic. So, apart from being an artistically rewarding experience, it's also very funny.
What is it like to act with all these pieces stuck on? Because they are not actual part of your body, although they feel like it, I know.
Well, this is his achievement, actually. In fact, when they're on, the process of putting it on is rather hellish. But once it's on, it moves completely with your face, and you are not aware, literally, not aware that you are wearing this mask, because he's designed it so well. He's designed it in such a way that it goes with literally every muscular move of your face. The only thing that was ever uncomfortable for me as Einstein was the moustache there, which is something that is always a problem. But all of this was completely comfortable. It's an amazing achievement. Mm-hmm. And that's partly to do with all the homework he puts in the initial stages of getting it to fit your face and be actually a part of your face. He never tries to do something which couldn't in some way relate to your own original structure, whatever is then laid on top.
It's quite hard work for the actor to sit there, you know, in certain set positions that he has to maintain without moving. There are times when he has to hold his breath because it's very delicate. To the actual positioning of this thing on, it's very light. It weighs virtually nothing at all. Difficult to feel. You know, the human neck. There's so many different movements that are possible, and every time you make a different movement, obviously the slightest fraction there makes it out by maybe a centimetre here. Move it by a millimetre on the chin, and it's out by a centimetre somewhere else. So the problem is to get the thing all lined up in the correct position. The adhesive I use is a surgical one, which is an impact adhesive and very strong. Once it's on, it's very difficult to get it off again. So if you make a mistake, you can be in deep trouble. We worked on the teeth. I worked with wax and continually altering them until we got exactly the right look to John's own mouth and with something that he could actually speak with, because the problem, he had to be able to talk and do all the rest of it.
Actually, we even got a bit of the twist.
That's right, yes. We twisted as much as we could. We twisted his own mouth around.
Your own mouth?
Yeah, from the inside.
Mm-hmm.
We twisted it and manoeuvred his own anatomy inside his head around as much as was possible. Then when I'd made the teeth, then we did the plaster cast of the head with the teeth in, okay? And from that I then had to sculpt the whole thing.
Well, John, how did you learn to speak, or did you all think of it yourself, or did you have somebody to help you?
No, I did think of that myself. There's some parts that dawn on you very quickly, the way in which you want to play it. And fortunately, the voice that I'd always imagined he was going to speak with was not impeded by the teeth or the makeup. The problems with the makeup, of course, were the problems that it could break up quite easily, because a lot of it goes to nothing, particularly inside of the lips and things like that. So you had to exercise an enormous amount of personal economy. That's the only way I can put it, really, during the day, for it to last. But preparation of the role, I don't know. I don't remember that being any great difficulty. The difficulty was merely being able to last the days. And on the first day of the makeup, I must say, I rang up my wife at the time, my late wife, and she said, and I said to her, I said, well, I think they finally found a way of making me not enjoy films. But strangely enough, you get used to that, you adapt to it quite reasonably. And also with film, there is light at the end of the tunnel. I don't know what you'd have to do if you did that for a television series, which you have a 7-year contract or something. I think then suicide might be in order. Should be right. That bit's there. Tucking the ear is important as well, I'd say, because you've got this on now from...
Well, this one went up here, didn't it?
This went on
the exact sequence we did.
Yeah, that's one of the tricky bits, actually, isn't it? Because it's also got the lip on it, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tucks right underneath.
That's right. The lip works in something like that. That fits on. And then this one, oops, fits up there.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can hold it down, you
I'll
get
keep my fingers out of the way, because I know...
rough idea of what it actually looked like.
All those ends have to be
If you
brushed
turn
away to
slightly more
nothing.
to the profile, if you look more to your left, you'll get that's it. That's good.
You ready for tea? Please go in, John. Make yourself comfortable.
I went in at 4:30. We used to sit around and have coffee for that bit.
In the morning?
In the morning, yeah. Start makeup at 5 o'clock. We finish the makeup at 12 noon. Then we'd shoot from 12 noon with the running buffet for everybody else, not for me because I couldn't eat. The last thing I had was at 9 o'clock in the morning, which was 2 raw eggs and some orange juice mixed up together through a straw. But so we'd shoot from 12 till 10:30 at night, and then it'd take another hour and a half to get it off. And we did that every other day. And the day in between, we'd rehearse in civvies.
Ah, come on. Meet our guest. Mr. Merrick, I'd like you to meet my wife, Anne. Anne, this is John Merrick.
I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Merrick.
I used to be treated so well by a beautiful woman.
Would you like a cup of tea, Mr. Merrick?
It's a good idea. Come and see the rest of the house. Come on, I'll show you.
Isn't it right that after this film, or actually because of this film, the Academy Award of Makeup was being
Well, that's
invented?
perfectly true, yes, yes. Up to that time, there had been a campaign for an award for makeup by the Hollywood Local Union, that is, that dealt with some of the bigger makeup names in Los Angeles. And they had been campaigning for some considerable time, a number of years, 7, 8 years, or perhaps more even, for an award for makeup, which in the early days perhaps wasn't always warranted. Sometimes, such as the Charles Lawton Hunchback of Notre Dame or something like that, certainly that warrants an award. But of course, the average feature film never really had that much in the way of makeup. However, The Elephant Man really did drive it home to the Academy that things should change, since they were giving awards for other departments that weren't always perhaps quite so important to the success of a film, such as sound or whatever.
Turn over. Draw.
Stop.
Got it.
Let's just see that back.
Quickly colour changes.
You just bring the head down a bit.
I think it'd be nice as it
What you want is a head up and down on some other person.
Yes.
Bloody with hands down low to match the
Yes, the hands can have more blood on, definitely. Yes.
This you work pretty long hours. And the nervous stress here is quite a lot because there's a lot of money at stake, you know, on a film production. There's so many thousands of pounds or guilders or whatever hanging around on the set waiting for you to come up with the answer. They're not going to wait for long because it's too expensive to wait, so you've got to be able to deliver something that actually works, which, well, touch wood anyway, we've always managed to do so far.
You all happy? Now, it doesn't have to be rigid to start with, gentlemen. Obviously, it could be a little feeling because this cuts after a lot of quite manic stuff. You know? Okay, and rotate. Okay, and hand. Just hold it still for 1 second, facing me.
Where did these three spring from?
Out of my belly.
Your children, but not my children. Whore! Adulteress! You hoped I'd never come back!
They've taken you!
Better wolf than whore! If I were wolf once more, I'd teach this whore a lesson!
Day I married him.
Clear the lights. Peter. Okay, here we go. Quiet and turn over. Stop! Air! Head! Pause!
Stop the air!
Stop the air!
I believe it. Yeah, it's only a...
So who's this?
I've forgotten. I don't know his name for a minute. What is his name? Stephen Ray. I actually forgot. I'm just trying to assemble the things together. At the moment. Let's see. Yes, it is.
But what is happening is that at least a couple of persons in the film are...
Actually turning into
Yeah.
wolves. That's true, they do. They turn actually into a wolf and not into a wolf man, unlike most of these sort of things. It's quite a sophisticated transformation, in fact, or will be.
Without animation.
Yes, there's no animation. There's no animation at all. This has got to be mechanized too, so that it'll actually float to the surface in the thing. It's got to float at a controlled rate, so that's a bit more mechanization. We've got to find some means of getting it to come at just at the right speed. And the water, or milk, or whatever it is, it's got to be the right kind of pigments and dyes. So even what looks like a very simple shot is not quite as simple, you know. There's more to it than may at first appear. Well, down here, you mean? Yeah. There we are. It's just, a shaky hand for that, really.
Well, you need a shaky hand.
Yeah, for this, yeah.
To feather it.
Well, you know, to get them all sort of, you know.
What I would like to know, how the hell did you ever start doing this?
I don't know.
No, I mean, you didn't just all of a sudden one day decide that you...
No, it happened gradually. No, it was certainly no. No, I never intended to do this, I can assure you. Certainly, purely by chance. It's something that grew and grew until it got totally out of control, like it is now.
What did you do before then?
I was a singer before then.
An opera singer?
Yeah. And then I was naturally interested in doing noses and things like that. They're all character parts I had to play, so makeup naturally was, you know, fairly important. So it was a natural progression from learning to make noses for oneself to eventually making them for other people, selling them, and then gradually getting drawn into this, which is what happened. And so there we are. The motto is, don't start getting involved in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Giving skin.
It's become part of me.
Yes.
It's so
it's
good
very
you
flexible.
You can't
Just
tell
stroke your
the
face,
edge.
wrinkle your face. That's it. Yeah, relax. If it's painful, just give a shout.
No, it's all right now. Begin to feel better. You breathe.
Yeah, Martin?
From noses is a big step from what you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's facial prosthetics, then gradually you get involved in doing makeup and then you develop into a makeup person. But I was only interested in doing complicated makeups rather than simple makeups.
Why?
More interesting. Who wants to stand around powdering somebody's nose? Certainly not me. This is just a mechanical rig for the Cyclops, which I think you've seen the picture of. Again, it's a foam rubber skin, but again, the problems are totally different because you've got no space, basically, to operate the eye in, because the build-up on the actor's face is not very much. The actual prosthetic build-up is perhaps only that much, and you've got to conceal electric motors, servos, they are, plus an acrylic case, actual mechanical case. Transmitters and everything else, receivers, have all got to be concealed somehow in a space like that, which is really difficult to get the eye to actually work.
So apart from that, you have to be an engineer.
Yeah, you've got to be an
physicist.
artist first and foremost to be able to get the thing to look exactly as you want it to look. Well, this little fella can look, you know, in almost any direction. It's not a proper eye, it's only a dummy eye, but you'd end up with a properly made one. You see? You look. Yeah. You look now. You can follow your eye, or else you can just look at you naturally, can't you? That's right. And then, of course, then this is the blinking as well. Or you can close your eye, can't you? And here I built in a special little override mechanism so that if you look at a natural eye, when it looks up, the eyelid tends to follow it, and when you look down, the upper eyelid goes down with it. So you can see the eyelids move with the eye as well, which is quite difficult to do, incidentally.
Maggie Weston, who was doing our, she's Terry Gilliam's wife, she was doing the makeup for Meaning of Life, and she said, well, look, for Mr. Creosote, we've just got to get Chris Tucker because he's the best person to do anything like that. And I think he's, I mean, he's a bit of each. He's a sort of superb technician at what he does. And he's also an inventor in sort of in evolving different techniques. And he's an artist as well in you know, when he's given his head and what he can actually achieve. In fact, the script started off with him having his stomach that was so large he had to have it on a wheelbarrow. What happened then was my costume designer actually drew the sort of design of how he thought the man would look. And I really liked what he'd done. It was Jim Atchison. And then we went to a sculptor who made the body for us. He did a body cast of my body, and we sculpted a body onto it. And then we went to Chris to do the face and make the face work and look fat. When I was not in the costume, I just had this huge face that filled up about there, and I was just walking around in a vest and underpants, and I looked really sort of misshapen and strange. I remember once we went to see some rushes at the cinema that was round the corner. We had to actually walk out into the street, and I was in the middle of having my makeup put on, so I just had to walk out like this, and passers-by were just suddenly saw me like that. sort of little old ladies with shopping bags just dropping their bags and sort of I think the funny it was when it was at the end of the sequence where we had this where Mr. Creosote explodes.
Yes, tell me all about that because I want to know.
Well, when he explodes, what we had basically, we just had 3 different bodies for him. One was a walking body, one body for sitting, and the other one was an inflatable body. And so it's actually terrible to see, in fact, this body inflating like that. And then there's, I think, 3 frames with nothing on. We just scratched the frames in the 3.
I didn't notice, no.
And then you cut to, we had this big catapult that could shoot 30 gallons of this vomit at once. And we just got 3 people sitting there and let go. It went whoosh like that and hurled these 30 gallons across them.
What I certainly wouldn't like to see is I do the work and somebody else gets the credit. I'm not in favour of that at all, which has happened on British Awards many times. That's happened in the past. I've made things for television productions which, because of the prosthetics involved, like I Claudius, for example, to name but one, and somebody else gets the award. They get awards, yes. Not only do they get awards, but they don't even do you the courtesy of bringing you up to thank you for getting them an award. And they certainly don't invite you to the celebration party to celebrate the winning of the award.
They didn't earn you an Oscar.
No, because there were no Oscars for makeup.
No.
There was no such thing as an Academy Award for makeup at that time. However, the Academy decided that after The Elephant Man, they could hardly ignore the fact that there was no an award for makeup because if things like that were going to crop up frequently, which they had in the past, there'd always been occasions, but there was no specific category. So after Elephant Man, there'd been a lot of heckling by the makeup union in Los Angeles. There'd been a lot of political rows brewing up over this over recent years. And the Academy finally got round to giving a special award for makeup, but of course I didn't get it, obviously. It was after the event. No, not at all, I don't care.
No?
Doesn't worry me much.
Well, it's sort of recognition, not only of the
yeah, that's true,
of
yes.
the work you do.
Yes,
So
this is perfectly true, but then, I mean, if there wasn't an award, there wasn't an award, so I can hardly complain that I didn't get one if there wasn't one. There wasn't one. That's the end of the story. at that time there wasn't one. They decided to make a special category after the event. You know, in other words, it was too late. So they can hardly nominate you for after you've died. It's almost like getting a medal after you're dead. I mean, the film is, you know, technically it's not included in the nominees, is it, for the following year?
Are there any plans of working together again in the future?
Well, nobody's offered us a job together currently, as far as I know. We're open to offers. Depends on what it is, though.
I'm very fond of Chris, but if I get a film and they say, oh, we've got Chris Tucker as the makeup man, I'm immediately suspicious.
Well, I guess when you
I think if he was wise, he'd run a mile. Because it's the preparation as much as anything else. It's not... It's the matter of the fact you've got to come into the studio early. You have to get up earlier than anybody else. You have to come into the studio before anybody else. You have to sit down and go through things that nobody else has to go through every day. And no matter how much of an enthusiast for makeup, such as Laurence Olivier or anybody else for that matter, the novelty wears thin, and I think John realizes that. I'm sure he does.
Well, I mean, as I think I said before, you know, you don't very often get... Very rarely in your life you're going to have something which you're going to have 7 hours of makeup as a standard thing. No, indeed, I'd love to work with Chris again if there was something which was, I don't know, some odd nose or something. I wouldn't mind that. That wouldn't be too bad.
That would be unbearable. The point about all this, though, is that it is an accessory and it's supposed to be an aid to the actor. It's not there to be seen for its own sake. It's there purely.
It has come a long way from the makeup people used to use, of course. This sort of makeup. That is.
Oh yes, yes, yes. It's getting quite well developed now, you could say. It really is.
Kun je er niet even langs?
Chagrijn.
Je rijdt naar je eigen begrafenis, Herman. Hè?
Jezus.
Kijk uit! Ja! Pas op!
It's like somebody telling a story. I like to frighten people or make them laugh or scare them or whatever, because most people like to be thrilled, they like to be scared, they like to be frightened. People only go to horror films to be frightened. They don't go there for any other reason. But I don't like to get mixed up with reality. I don't like to see a real injured head. That I'm very, very squeamish. You won't find many people as squeamish as me. I hate to see real blood. You have to study photographs, yes, but then you divorce yourself from the fact that it's only a photograph. You're not looking at a real dissected corpse in front of you. I try and avoid such things. It's not my scene at all. I like to make something look really nasty to frighten other people, yes. But then that's the raconteur in me, is the actor trying to act, to try and entertain you, if you like.
Cut!